It's time for another Keep Shooting Monday.
I'd give you a hand, but...
Hey everyone, welcome to Keep Shooting Monday number 82. My name is Greg Cazillo from Cazillo.com.
And I'm Kathy Azar from Catherine Azar Photography.
Last week we had some surprises that we were lining up for Kathy, and she still has not seen these. I have not let her see these. Bridget did some framing for her. This was the frame from the dog picture, and so why don't we do it this way? We'll show them before we even show you.
Killing me. He hasn't let me see. It's been sitting here.
I love how this thing has turned out. I think it is much more powerful.
That's awesome.
This way, with the right glass, with the right frame. Not that the frame itself on that I think was fine. Maybe it needed the matte in order to make it big because it's a wide frame. But the thin metal frame like this with the textured matte only enhances. What's her name again?
Maggie.
Maggie.
You can't ever remember her name. It's one of the most common dog names around.
Enhances Maggie like you would not believe. You really see the texture of her fur and the light on her fur. And you know what? You didn't even need to match her eyes, her eye color in this, the brown eyes, because they stand out with the contrast, with everything being so dark and gray. Her eyes just stand out.
I think the big thing that Bridget had talked about that made an impact on me was it needed some negative space, that the frame was crowding the picture the last time. And I think we had talked about the brown eyes and trying to match that in the matte. And when we were playing with it after the show, we just kept trying and trying with the browns, and it wasn't working.
Nope.
And then Bridget pulled out this, and I went, oh my gosh, that's it. That's
well,
the
first
one.
we started with the mattes, and that's usually where you want to start out, is finding the right matte color, the right matte combination. And I kept saying, well, we need, we're looking at the dark blacks, and they just didn't work.
Well, they weren't black enough, because she's so black that it didn't work.
Between that and the fact that the picture is so deep black, and it's a glossy color, and so that all kind of ties into it. If you want that deep black, you got to go with a gloss or a luster print, because otherwise you just don't get those super deep
That was
blacks.
Actually metallic.
That's right. Yeah.
And I chose the metallic because I wanted to see, first of all, I wanted to see what the print turned out like, but also with the shine in her fur. And you weren't a big fan of the metallic, but I personally liked it. And when we tried, like you said, the blacks didn't match, but as soon as Bridget pulled this out, it's a little texturized and it's doubled. I don't know how much you can tell. Maybe we'll take a picture of it later, but a couple different angles. It's a double matte. So the inside matte and the outside matte are exactly the same. And it's cut such that you do not, I think she said it was reverse bevel or something like that. The terminology was beyond me.
Basically, instead of seeing the edge, typically when you cut a matte, you're going to cut it on an angle like this so that you're looking at it from this angle and you're going to see the inside of the white line of that matte.
Yeah.
But instead what she did, so for on this side, she cut it going in.
Goes the other way.
So you don't see it at all. You only see...
Because you wouldn't want to see white with this. It would ruin. It would draw your eye to the white versus the black.
Yep.
And then with just the really small frame, it draws your attention to the picture rather than the frame, and it worked out beautifully. And I like the way the gray kind of picks up some of the highlights in her fur. It worked out really well. So again, that's why you go to someone who knows what they're doing, because she guided us the right way.
I'll put a link up to that video so you can check it out again.
I see this one now.
We have one more. Let me sit this down.
All right.
Go ahead.
So this is for you. You get to see it first.
That turned out really, that's perfect.
Oh, yes. Look at that. The frame that we had actually picked didn't exist anymore.
Okay.
So Bridget did this on her own. I said, I trust you. Go ahead. Because she called me. It was just the old one was discontinued. But that's really pretty. That's really nice, because I think it's something that she, as a senior, will like, but her parents will like it too.
Yep. And you know what? That's one that it's a nice enough frame that she's going to like it now, and she's going to like it in 20 years.
It's classic.
Yeah. It's going to work as is with a lot of different furniture, a lot of different rooms.
And so many of the frames, like the gold, like there's some around here in the studio, gold's coming back. My electrician just told me that even gold fixtures are coming back.
Interesting.
I know, very interesting, because I just finished replacing a lot of the cold ones in my house. But this is enough so that it's classic and will last generations. But yay!
Yeah, that looks
Thank
really
you, Bridget.
good. Yeah, that looks
I feel
really
like it's
good.
Christmas. It's fun. Christmas. We just missed Christmas in July. Christmas
there you
in
go.
August.
That's it. So you brought some other frames from a different company, Kathy?
I did. We wanted to segue from those kind of frames into some other things you can do with frames. One of the things that this hangs in my office, you can frame your logo to keep up somewhere. These are frames from Organic Bloom, and you must be a photographer in order to be a vendor for their frames.
Okay.
So you have to sign up for their program. And I love them. They're really cute. They're they're classy, but they're more of the shabby chic look.
Yeah.
So this is another one.
And they're a little bit more, I don't want to...
Frou-frou?
Yeah, kind of outgoing and bold.
Yeah. And it matches my style.
Yes.
I love the shabby chic
I would
look.
agree.
And but my seniors love them too, because I'm using some of their frames as rewards for my senior rep program, and the seniors love these. So for this one, I took out the center and replaced it with a piece of light colored burlap. So you could do something like that, and then add a clip of some sort to use in addition to the picture. Something along the lines of this. This was just a standard frame that I got at a box store. With that big purchase that I made that one week of like $175. And I took out the glass. I have a lot of pieces of glass lying around my house because I keep taking the glass out of things. And took a piece of burlap and hot glued it to the cardboard that usually comes in the inside of the frame. Which worked out fine, because with this one, I actually had to put a piece of white paper underneath this because you could see the cardboard through it. So the white helped to diffuse that a little bit. So this one, but just be careful when you're working with burlap, because I got a piece in my eye that bothered me all day yesterday. When you cut burlap,
goes everywhere?
Shreds go everywhere.
Really?
Yes.
So you cut it with scissors?
Yes. So be very careful, because it goes everywhere. Made me crazy. Then I took just a regular old clip from an office supply store and spray painted it matte black. I was not sure how that was going to work out. It was super easy, and I think it turned out fabulously. And I hot glued that to that.
I was wondering how you put it on there, whether with magnet or how
hot
you
glue.
glued it.
You could, if you use some magnetized paint, perhaps behind the burlap, that might work. I don't know how.
Or put it inside of the mat or something. That might work.
Or a magnet
but you know what?
board
With
back
kids,
there.
you're still going to need to glue it no matter what, because with kids, they're going to end up pulling it off of there.
Which might not be a bad thing, though. If it's magnetized, then you can.
True,
if it's
but
hot glue,
it's not going to
ruined.
stick back on there. Is my point.
And then I added the ribbon. So I hot glued the ribbon here and here, and the hanger is still there. So you wouldn't have to hang it from the ribbon. If I was going to hang it from the ribbon, I might put some screws back there just to make sure that it was solid. So you can still hang it from that, and then add like a little pin or something underneath that to hold that up.
Yeah, you know what? A pin would be perfect for that.
Just to hold it up. So I like the way that turned out. Kind of rustic, shabby chic again.
Yep, something fun for the kids to be able to put up whatever they need to put up that week.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, you can change it out. And you mentioned that in addition to the one, if you wanted to put a stack of pictures here, you could put a stack, and then people could change them out as they saw fit.
That'd be a fun open close sign in a window of a business or something like that.
It would.
So yeah, that's cool. So I did a couple projects this week. I'm not quite as crafty as Kathy. I think that's be your new nickname, Crafty Kathy.
It's a new show.
So she said, well, I was thinking about doing this letter idea, and I forget where we saw it, somewhere on the web.
Pinterest.
Was it on Pinterest? Yeah.
A lot of these ideas came from Pinterest.
I figured I would try it out, and it turned out okay. It's a cool idea. Basically, I just laid it out in Photoshop and add an additional layer and put the photos underneath that layer just to lay them out. It turned out pretty good. I did it with an
X-Acto knife.
With an X-Acto knife. It'd be a nice gift to give someone. I would not give this if I'm doing it myself to sell. I wouldn't sell this because it's just not perfect, and I just don't think it's good enough. It looks too crafty and too
DIY.
Yeah, it looks too DIY. Whereas some of the other things that we do turned out really well. But what I did is I gave Bridget 2 different copies of this. She's going to try one with her mat cutter and see if she can do a better job, number 1. And number 2, she knows of another picture framer that has a laser cutter. And she's going to give it to her and laser cut out the letter. And I think that's going to end up turning out a lot better. So as soon as we get that back, we'll let you see that and see how well it turns out. And with the laser cut one, I think we're going to try for the real thick foam core, like a 1/2 inch foam core, something like that. And I think it'll turn out very nicely versus this one. It's just, like I said, it's just a little bit too handmade and hand done. And I think we could have somebody do it professionally.
And I said you might even be able to get a wooden letter somewhere and then decoupage the pictures on that.
But again, you're still cutting that out, and it's still difficult to get that cut perfect.
Yes, I see what you mean.
So we got to play with it, and it's something that you might have to play with and try out. But if we come up with other ideas, we'll definitely put them on the show. So that was a fun thing, but something different. So what else do you have over there you want to talk about, Kathy?
This is a really easy one, and I promise that I will eventually stop talking about my son's home run. It's just that so many of the pictures or the projects that we've done have been conducive to using those pictures.
Yep.
This is just from Miller's. It's a template from Miller's that you drag and drop the picture in, and it's a magazine cover that would be really simple, and you could frame it. And here's, again, an example of using the appropriate frame. This, for a sports picture, as much as I love the organic bloom frames, you wouldn't want to put that in that. It just doesn't work. You would want something like a more standard rectangular, plain, simple frame. Maybe even the black one that was on the dog picture, something simple like that.
Yep. And if you're a Photoshop person, you could very easily do that yourself in Photoshop,
Absolutely.
which I have done in the past for some of my client stuff. I've just made my own frames and my own setup, especially for a soccer league thing that I do. Put it together, do my own template, and it actually works out really well.
Honestly, the reason I did this is I have a friend who needed me to print out some bag tags for her.
Okay.
And with Miller's, to get the free shipping, you have to have a minimum order. So I'm like, well, what can I do to try and raise the amount?
Yep.
And I was like, I'll try this. So it was kind of just a way to raise the price.
Okay.
You going to talk about this, or are you doing that?
Talk about that since you're on the baseball thing.
On the baseball thing. Okay, the last home run thing, I promise, at least for a while. This is just a ball holder that I got at a craft store. And by the way, this is not my son's home run ball. He wouldn't let me bring his home run ball. I thought I was going to lose it or something. So I took the ball holder, and it has glass on the different sides. And it does have a mirror in the back, and I just printed out 4x4 pictures on my home printer, the Epson printer, and adhered them either on the back, like for example, this one was just a black back, so I just cut it to fit perfectly, and then used some adhesive to stick it in. These I had to slide into the inside. Like this, I mounted them on some of my old scrapbooking paper and then stuck some little stickies in there and then had to slide it, and now I'm lost as to where it went. Slide it inside here.
I think you're still going the wrong way.
And then, no, I'm good,
okay.
I think. Anyhow, doesn't matter. But stuck it inside, and then you stick this over the ball, and you have a photo cube that is also a ball holder. And this was his home run experience, and he'll swap out the ball when I get home. But you could do, your son was given, or daughter was given the team ball for some great experience. You could do team pictures on the outside, or even just for the season, you could do that. And the sign that you've done a good job is your son comes to you and says, when you're finished with that, can I have it? It's in this room. So that was kind of fun. I think it's nice looking. I like that.
Yeah. Especially if he likes it, then I'm sure it'll stick around, and
exactly.
that'll turn out well. So where's that old clock frame? So I took this old clock that we had sitting on the wall, and most of the time the battery itself the battery wasn't replaced often, and so we need to get that, keep up with the batteries. But I said, you know what, let's just put together a simple clock. So that's what I did. I said, I'll just find a picture and make some letters, put it in Photoshop, and it turned out pretty well. I just cut the hole in the middle with an X-Acto knife and slid the frame through, and the hands were actually black, which actually works fine on the old clock face, but it didn't work so well on the new one. So I just took one of those paint markers from
Sharpie,
the Sharpie paint markers, and hit it with some silver. I could have done the gold. I might still go over it with the gold because I think the gold might look pretty good.
I think the gold would blend in too much.
Yeah. Anyway, made a big difference. Obviously, if you go to the craft store, they're going to have just those clock sets. You might be able to pick up different kinds of hands and colored hands, but I wanted to do this with one that I already had around. So I just printed out the picture on the 3880, mounted it onto a board or onto a mat board, and then cut out the hole and stuck it in a frame. Now, I don't even have to keep this in the frame if I don't want to. If I just want the mat board, actually it didn't look that bad with just the mat board hanging, and so we may end up doing that without even the frame, because you never know, we may end up selling the clock frame in a picture.
And you said you didn't like the kind of paper that you printed it on. You
Correct.
preferred it on the glossy. And
Yeah.
I don't mind that because I think it gives it a little bit more muted look. The glossy might be a little too reflective for me.
I don't know. I'm very picky about how the colors
About
turn
everything.
out. Yeah, how the colors turn out in a print. And in this case, I printed it on the matte paper on purpose to, number one, see how it looks. But number two, I still think the luster or a high gloss would have been better on this. So I might try another one, do another one, see how it turns out. But for now, there it is, done.
So how did
Not
you
bad.
make sure that the numbers were positioned exactly correctly for a clock?
Played with it for about a half an hour.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty close. I actually looked at the time a couple times, and watched it go, and I think it's pretty close as far as where the letters are and the time.
I bet there's a template somewhere that you could get that
Probably
would make life easier. But
I mean, I played with the letters and alignment for must have been at least a half an hour in Photoshop just to try and get the alignment right. And so maybe I'll put that up on as a download. If you sign up for the email newsletter, you can download that. You'll get a link to it. But I'll tweak it. I'll make sure that it's perfect before I put that up. So if I had time today in between editing the show, I'll put that up for you. So fun little project you could easily do with the kids, and just don't let them handle the X-Acto knife.
do you know that when you talk, the base of your voice makes the table rumble?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, good.
All right, this was one of my favorite projects that I did. Again, this came from Pinterest. It is a photo cube, and the pictures and letters and such are just decoupaged on here. So step by step, basically, you take just a cube that you get at a craft store, wood cube. You'd adhere the pictures and the paper. These are old scrapbook papers that I had around. I told Greg, this combines all of my previous jobs, I guess, except for teaching. I used to be a scrapbooking consultant, so I have a ton of old scrapbook paper and stickers and numbers and letters and all sorts of stuff lying around the house. So I've been able to use those. Plus, I used to have a hair bow business making hair bows for little girls.
Oh, really?
So
You never told me about that.
The pampered ponytail. So I have a whole bunch of ribbon at home, and I know how to make the bows, and I can show you at some point how to do that.
I think that's exactly what a bunch of photographers want to learn, is how to make a bow.
Well, but you can use it on a lot of projects. Whatever. So I printed the pictures on my Epson 2000, and I used a spray adhesive to spray on. I'm not sure if I would do that again because it took a long time to dry. So once I adhered everything, then you use... Well, I wanted to get it done. Then I took an antiquing ink on the side. Mine was just a stamper kind of thing, but you can use a chalk. They didn't have chalk where I was looking for it. And as the process went on, I thought, I have totally mucked this up. This is not turning out well. But by the time it all dried, it looked great.
Fine.
So I used Mod Podge as the glue that goes on top of these things. Then I adhered a little hook at the top and tied the ribbon on. And if I had to do this, when I go home, I'm going to hot glue it onto that little hook so it stays on a little bit better, and I'll cut off these. I left these because if you wanted to tie them and do it at Christmas ones, you could do it as a Christmas ornament, especially if you used a smaller block. But I loved the way it turned out.
Cool. Pretty nice. One more thing. Do you have any more? I think that's it, right?
I'm all out.
Yep. Last one that I did is actually a little calendar that I thought I would print out. I did two things with this. Number one, just grabbed a photo that I liked and laid out a calendar with the 12 months. There's actually a few Lightroom templates, and I'll put up a link to this guy's site. I wish I knew his name, but I'll put it up on the bottom of the page there. Anyway, every year he puts up a new download where you can print a calendar right out of Lightroom, and it's not for sale. You'll have to find another route because it's not open source. It's actually, basically it's copywritten, so you can't use it to resell. But anyway, this isn't actually his. This is another way to do it, but it turned out really well and something fun and something different. You could do all kinds of ideas with calendars. Like if you could do the normal full calendar block that's like its own 10-inch print underneath and then a photo above it, or you can do the front and back side if you wanted to do that. There's all kinds of different ways you can make your own calendars and make it work. And then of course, I laminated this one since we have a 12-inch laminator here in the studio, so I was able to laminate it.
You could also frame these if you wanted to, and I'm not a big fan of a calendar just like this. I need to be able to write in a calendar if I'm going to have it. But a lot of businesses have things like this hanging around so they can plan things out. You could also
great giveaway.
Take a picture of kids or do some Photoshop cutesy little thing with kids, laminate it, and make it a placemat.
You could,
kids love seeing themselves.
And most likely you could probably write on this. You know what I mean? You could use like a dry erase marker and write on something like this. If you didn't want, say you just wanted to print the calendar itself and then laminate it, I'm sure you could use a dry erase marker, put it on the fridge or something like that. So there's all kinds of ideas that you can do with calendars. So
I like that.
Cool stuff. So I don't know if we're going to do another DIY photo project video next week or not. We'll see what we come up with. We've already done, what, 20 or
bunch.
25 different projects, so that's a pretty darn good list. So we'll see.
Pinterest has a lot more ideas too.
Yep.
Some of them I came up with just walking through the craft store. Like this, I liked the frame. I thought, ooh, burlap would look cool in there. And I had seen like a clip on another frame kind of a thing. And so sometimes just walking around gives you ideas. Other times you can go right to Pinterest and find things like this. Someone had one that had a bunch of different blocks that spelled out love. You know, if you had the top one had an LOVE stack for Valentine's Day, you could do a project for your honey.
Are you going to keep up with your Pinterest board?
Yeah, I've actually added some more things, and I just started adding my own photography to my senior boards and things like that, because that's a good advertising for yourselves too. Add your pictures to Pinterest.
Good. So you're going to keep that up, and we'll put up a link for that too.
Sounds good.
I think that's it for today. Right?
I think so.
We're done.
Did we miss anything? I don't think so. Good.
I guess we're going to throw out that old clock, huh?
Yeah, I think it needs to go.
Thanks, guys. Keep shooting. See you.